Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jay with the Wisconsin Historical Fencing Association, Milwaukee, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how you can train indoors in your home. Winter is almost over, so you can go outside, but if you have nosy neighbors or you're embarrassed, like I am, to go outside and swing your sword around, or you also have nosy neighbors like I do, you're going to want to try to find a way to practice indoors, or perhaps it's raining, inclement weather. And so this is a couple of things that you can do with a sword when you don't have a lot of space. Now here I have about 3.5 feet of width and maybe 8 to 10 feet this way before I'll wreck the TV by hitting it. So what can we do? Also, I have normal ceilings. I can't do a vom tag. I'll hit the ceiling. So what sort of things can we do with just this little space? Well, thankfully, we do have some options for when we are in a small space. And one of those options is flug, friendly flug. We can also do spreck fencer, and we can do oaks. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show some things that you can do to practice to get some martial efficacy out of your training. Couple of things though. One, work slow. We're working on muscle memory and precision, not speed. Speed will come when your body does the motion without you thinking, when you have muscle memory. And other than that, don't expect, well, there's going to be one thing later. Try to grow out of your body mechanics. One of the moves that we're going to be doing today, I could not do when I started sword fighting. I had to practice it, and I got good at doing it because I had limited space to practice it. And that's why I can do it now. In fact, I can do it better than some of the techniques I try to do, simply because I do it all the time. I do it basically every night. So we're going to get started. We're going to start in flug. If you remember flug, you want to take the position stance. We're going in right flug or dominant flug if you're left-handed. You want to take the sword and put it just in front of you. And you want the point facing just about at their face. All right, so once you have that, you step back as far as you can in your space. And I want us to practice a maneuver. Now, it's going to be a little difficult to see, but I want you to practice you stepping forward with your other foot and keeping your hips aligned straight. A lot of what we're going to be doing requires a good hip push, a good push off, first off the dominant leg, and then it will sort of pull forward on your non-dominant leg, on the leg that's going forward. So if your left leg is forward, your right leg is back like mine is, you're going to push forward, spring forward, and land back on that dominant foot, but that foot being ahead. Okay, so go into flug, and we're going to just do that a couple of times. Okay. Now you can see what's happening to my sword as I step forward. It's kind of going into where it would be strong against someone else's sword, right? It's sort of moving slightly off center. Part of that is space and objects, but part of that is the point, right? There's going to be a slight shift in my hips. My hips are going to move ever so slightly to the left as I move forward, and the sword is going to get pushed slightly to the left by the body mechanic change. And that's good. That's what we want, because the first thing that we're going to practice is wrathfully cutting from flug. Flug is a thrusting guard. It's meant to threaten the point and thrust forward, and it does that very well. But it can also be used against a long point or into a bind. It's a little harder because you have to bring your arms up, but it is possible, and that's what we're going to practice. We're going to practice going from flug into an einschießen, a shooting, over the sword, which is a zone. Okay, so you step forward and you bring the sword up. right? They're coming in for a bind, you step forward and you bring the sword up. What's going to happen mechanically, I have a rapier here, is they're going to be coming down and you're going to be wanting to bring your sword up here. They're going to come down, you want your sword up there. And you're going to have to move faster than them, but that's why you practice. Once you go up there, you shoot. I want to see you guys shoot forward, okay? So that's the next step. So you step forward and shoot. Step forward into the thorn, shoot. Now you should be shooting at their head. So do that. You step forward and shoot. And then, if you'd like, you can go into the other side flug. And you can step forward, turn the blade so your strong is on there, would be on theirs, and shoot. Just like that. Now, as you see with the camera, I don't have quite as much space. So if I was going to do that, step forward and shoot. And you want to turn the blade because to be strong on them, you need to use your long edge. Okay. Now that we've got that, the next step, once we've shot our blade out and are aiming for the thrust, they're going to parry in general. So I want you guys to practice this motion. You have your strong on their blade, they're pushing on you, you're going to do a duplering. Now if you remember duplering, you turn the blade around as they're pushing on you to put the blade into their head. So you want to take this and turn it that way. Turn your upper arm and turn your left arm, non-dominant hand, under it. That'll do the duplering. Cut my camera. All right, so go ahead and practice that, right? Cut in to the point, duplering. Now you can try to do it from Cramped-hau like I just did, but we're trying to do it from flug. Sorry. So you shoot in, duplering. Nice and slow. Step forward strongly, shoot in, and the shoot can be with a step. And as they push, duplering. Again, my camera's a little bit in the way. Now the next step in this motion is something I think that you studied on a day that I wasn't there, is work. But it's a little different than a normal's work. And it's used for when, in this case, what we have is an opponent whom we've overbound and thrust at. And they try to push us away with a parry. And if they try to push us away with a parry, we duplering. But what if they realize the parry isn't going to work? Or they know we're going to duplering, and they want to come around the other side? Well, you duplering and still you cut them. But just to protect yourself, we're going to be doing a variant of this work. Now, typically when this work is taught, it's taught as a cut like this, and a cut like this. And that is accurate. That is, in fact, our Cramped-hau according to the masters. But there's a way to speed that up and keep your sword out in front of you to protect you. And that's going to be important for this move and the next move. So what we want to do is when we're in duplering here, you're going to reverse the duplering. But instead of just flipping it over, you're going to dip the sword's pommel, which will raise the tip around their head, almost as if you're attached to a track around their head, and come around to the other side. This keeps you protected in front in case they try anything. You've got all your sword in front of you, and it also lets you drop the sword right down on their neck or head. And if they come around, I don't have a good sword. If they come around, they're going to hit your blade, right? So if they come around, they're going to swing into your blade if they can even get to you. All right, so And that move is going from the duplaren under the arm. You want to pull the left hand and pommel out, and you're going to swing your other arm, your dominant arm, up. So you do this round motion around their head. Try to get it as tight as possible, but the idea is you're taking your short edge. So you've gone long edge, duplaren is long edge against their face, and now you're going to do a short edge cut against their neck or chin. So let's add that. So we're going to start in Flug. We're going to quickly push over, come in, spring into the attack, thrust, duplaren, and then we're going to zwerk. Now don't bend your back like that. Let's do it again. Zwerk. Just like that. Just like that. Against them. And finally, what we're going to add is once we're in the zwerk, we're going to drop the sword close to us, step backwards, which is an abzug, a retreat, and throw the sword out towards their face. This last move is something that is really important to the art. In tournaments, you don't see a lot of people retreating with art and craft. Not every attack is going to hit. Not every play is going to work. And even if it does work, we have things called afterblows or doubles. Learning the abzug, learning the retreating maneuvers is very useful. In tournaments, many tournaments, if you hit them in the face, but they hit you in the torso, you do not get full points for the hit. And in real life, if you hit them in the head and you get hit in the torso, they're dead, you might be. So the art requires excellent use of range both when attacking and when retreating. So we're going to add a retreat with some martial, a martial retreat. So here is that. You've done your Zorn to their neck. Maybe they avoided it. Maybe they pushed your sword away. Maybe it just didn't work. You're going to turn your blade. You're going to drop your blade. This is now instead of being in a zwerk, you're in a hanging guard. Turn your blade into a hanging guard, and you're going to step backwards, keeping your sword in front of you. Again, this is your defense. Keeping your sword in front of you, and then you're going to drop the sword in their face as you step back. Okay, so let's do that again. Keeping the sword in front of you, drop it. Nice. And now if you do that at speed, which I can't do because I don't want to hit anything, you should be able to keep the sword protecting you. And that's very important. Putting all of this together. Don't have a lot of space, so you're not going to be swinging all over the place. But that's good. You don't want to parry way out here, and you don't want to attack way out here. So having this small range is useful in Krieg. So we're going to start out here. We're going to go into Flug. We're going to step forward and spring with a Zorn-like maneuver. Finish the thrust. Turn it into duplaren. Turn it into zwerk. Come back like that. It's 2 steps, maybe 3 if you take an extra step when you do the thrust. But this is something that you can do with very little space. All right, let's do it one more time. In Flug, thrust forward, einschießen forward with a Zorn-like overbind. Continue the thrust into duplaren, zwerk, and then come back, abzug, with a cut to the head. And that's one thing you can do when you don't have a lot of space. Another thing you can do is, let's start with Oaks. So when you're in Oaks is not a hanging guard, right? Hanging is out there. But Oaks is a thrusting from above attack, right? The expectation, according to your opponent, is that you're going to thrust them, okay? In Dobringer, Dobringer likes thrusting and he likes using the point. Meyer likes short edge cuts. So we're going to do something that's kind of a Meyer exercise. You're going to thrust forward and drop your sword, and this is a short edge cut. I'll let John Charles talk more about Meyer and his theory on short edge cuts. But in general, he has explained it to me as this is something that Meyer does to show that he could have stabbed you. Remember, Meyer was at a time when you didn't want to stab your opponent precisely. You wanted to prove that you were skilled without killing your opponent. So you go into Oaks, and you're gonna reach out and drop your sword right into a short edge cut, and then you're gonna bring it around and step forward to a long edge cut on the same plane, right? So if you cut down, good. Now, once you've cut down, you should go into Oaks on the other side and cut down and cut down. This one, be very, very careful. This one's going to go a little high. But what we're learning here is also to keep your blade in an area where it will protect your body. You don't want to bring your blade back here if you can help it. So we're going to do it again, and I'm going to make sure I didn't do that, right? So I stab forward, cut down, bring it around, right, like that. And I'm going to do this, step forward, step forward, bring it around. I'm sorry, don't step forward. Stab forward, step forward with the long edge. We'll do that one more time, just because I confused myself. We'll start on this side. You're going to thrust forward and you're going to snip down. This is this short edge cut and then long edge cut. Same plane and stepping. Bring up to Oaks, drop, stab and drop down, and step with the long edge cut. There is a more fluid version of this that you can do when you have more room and you're not, you're not going to break a monitor by swinging it. But these are the two things I want you to practice, okay? I want you to practice going from Flug, overbinding thrust, duplieren, Zwerk, Abzug, into this is kind of a Cramped-hau, it's an attack to the head. And then the other things you can practice are from an Oaks, dropping down, tight swing with arms forward, and step forward with a long edge cut, okay? So come back here, short edge cut, bring it as close to your body as you can. And be careful with the TV over there. But you should be able to get at least 1 to 3 steps, martial steps, before you hit anything if you have about 10 feet. A couple other things that we can practice. I apologize, this is a long video. You can practice the wind of Oaks, right? So we can practice that wind. You can practice, there's a cut called Cramped-hau, where you go from Flug or Vomtag, even Oaks, and you turn the blade, and you do a short edge cut. So I usually like to go from Spreckfenster or Flug, turn the blade, and you drop it down. So see how the blade turns? Watch the blade turn. You're parrying their blade, and you're dropping it down. You're doing that all in one motion. You do that on the other side too from Flug. This is just a wind. Remember, you can wind from any one part of the blouse to any other part, any opening to another opening, right? So you can wind and drop your sword and do a Cramped-hau from that side. One last thing that you can practice, or one last thing for this video, as you can see there's many things you can practice, is you can practice precision hitting the head. You want to do this slow. We're going to go over there and work on this real quick. So let's move this. That was my forehead. All right, now over here. It's going to be a little. Let me turn off the light here. All right, that's better. So, what you need is just something soft and padded that you can put on the wall. There's my soft padded thing on the wall, and it should be about head height. And what you want to do, it's going to be a little rough, I apologize. This was sort of an ad hoc idea I had. So what you're going to want to do is go from flue or Sprech fencer and shoot. And just try to hit your soft padded pillow right in the same way. I'm looking for those two, the X where the two lollipops cross on his stomach. I'm just boop. I'll show you what that looks like on the bear. So I step forward, boop. Step back a little bit. This is also how you can learn range. Are you in range? Remember, an actual Scheisen is here, and then you step forward, right? So when you actually shoot, you want to shoot to about here, and that last little bit is how you stab them. So those are some ideas on how you can practice in a very small space. It does allow you to tighten up your work. It does allow you to tighten up the craft, and it allows you to. The biggest thing I found is I keep my sword out in front of me more. I'm not bringing it to the sides where it's away and my opponent is able to attack any opening. I'm not swinging wildly to the side, left or right, because I just don't have the room. Sorry this video was a little cramped, but those are some things you can do, and I hope you do them. I hope you train with them when you get the fetters from the school. One last bit. I apologize. This is, if you're going to get a fetter, you don't have to really worry about this, but I said in an earlier video that you should get this. If you want to practice Cramped-hau, suggest a 2-foot piece of wood, a stick. You use tape to designate a long and a short edge. And then when you want to do, say, Oberhaus, you just check your alignment of your sword edge, and you do that 45-degree cut, right, from collarbone right through the rib cage, out the bottom of the rib cage and the abdomen, right? So you can watch that tape. If that tape doesn't waver, if it stays on the same plane, you're good. And then you can practice both sides without worrying too much that you're going to break something. You can also practice any of the other moves that we did in this with this. Again, you want to maintain a good edge alignment because that's very important in sword fighting, and round things don't have one. I hope that's it. I'm sure there's other things that you can think of. I'm sure there's other things I'm going to think of. But for now, that gives you a great set of tools to practice when you only have 3x10 or 3x6, right? Stepping forward, stepping backwards, Abzugs, and attacks from Flug, attacks from Oaks. Thank you very much. Have a great day.